I've owned my business now for about 4 years. And for me personally, owning a business has taught me massive, and I mean massive, lessons in resilience. So things like how to bounce back from setbacks, not crack under pressure, and to stop catastrophizing. Those last two in particular, I'm still learning. It's a work in progress. But if you're in the same boat as me, this episode is going to be really helpful because Jay Pottenger from EQ Minds, who is a mental health and neuroscience speaker, is going to be giving us the tools to build resilience and to learn how to bounce back. So you don't have to have the meltdowns I did in the first 4 years of owning my business. I am so excited about this episode. I know that I'm going to learn a lot. This is the third and final episode of our mini-series with Jay. So thank you, Jay, for the third time for coming on the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me back. And I just got to say, everyone who's owned a business and has made it 4 years has had many meltdowns and has probably built lots of resilience. So you're not alone in that venture.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. When you're in the dark pits of a meltdown, it feels like you're just the only one. Hey.
So true. I was just speaking to my wife about this and she was saying, it feels like we're doing everything for the very first time. Surely there's lots of people that have done this before, and I'm sure there's bazillions, and yet you feel like you're literally Robinson Crusoe doing it for the first time.
Yeah, isn't it funny that like business owners, we're all going through the same kind of hurdles and issues, and whether that's issues within the business or perhaps it's a confidence issue or, internal, external issues, we all go through the same things, yet in the moment it just feels quite lonely and it feels like you're the only one who's ever had that issue in the whole entire world.
Very true. Maybe we should make a chat that's a psychologist just for small business owners that have been through the exact same thing that we've been through. Maybe that'd be really helpful.
Yes, that would be. I'll leave that to you to build because,
Don't have time. No, it's not time.
Yeah, I'm too busy bouncing back from all the setbacks and trying not to crack under the pressure. So to get started, I'd love to have a chat about how we can be more aware of these factors that are contributing to our lack of resilience.
Yeah, so resilience is an interesting thing because it so depends on the individual. Some people, it takes literally a mountain fall on their head for them to crumble. And for other people, it's like the tiniest little pebble or feather falls on them and they just crumble. But I think we are in a bit of a resilience crisis. And I think there's a lot of things that is contributing to that. I have a very good friend of mine. He works at a very prestigious school in Sydney. I asked him recently whether he thought kids were really resilient. And he sort of laughed at me and said, no, we're certainly in this resilient crisis. And I wonder if that's coming from the comfort crisis that we're all in.
Because how many crises are there?
I know. And the loneliness crisis, and it just keeps going on.
Yeah.
But we think about sort of how people are brought up now and potentially how we were brought up, that there wasn't a lot of challenges. Like, life's pretty good. There wasn't a lot of hurdles to come over, and they're getting even less. And nowadays, when you think about how much time do kids actually spend feeling really uncomfortable, it's not a lot, because as soon as they feel uncomfortable in a social situation, we'll just pull out the phone. Pure, I can just escape from wherever I am and my comfort's right back. And I think because of that, we are getting this resilience issue. And it's going to be really problematic as people start coming into the workplace. Yeah,
I was thinking the other day, like, I can't even remember the last time I was bored. I literally think it was like before I had a phone, when I was a kid with dial-up internet. That was the last time I actually experienced the emotion of boredom.
Which is super problematic from a multitude of things, not only from the fact that you've never been bored, so you've never been uncomfortable, but also, what are we doing to what's called our default mode network, which is that system that sort of works in our unconscious, which helps solve problems, thinks about what's going on in our world, and then delivers solutions? We don't really have any time in that anymore because our prefrontal cortex is always turned on, because we're always focusing it on either something, someone, or a phone now. So we don't have that time to really dwell on all the different things that's going on in our world anymore. Really interesting.
Yeah, and I think because convenience probably plays a big part in that as well. With Uber Eats, you can literally have your dinner or even your groceries to make your dinner delivered. If you need a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a partner, you hop onto Tinder or whatever the dating apps are. If you're, feeling bored, which you probably haven't felt in years like me, you jump on TikTok or Instagram. There's just everything we need is right at our fingertips.
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever, and it comes right back to the start of this conversation where you said, in the last 4 years, I've done so much hard things that I feel so much more resilient. Well, there's actually research to back that up that shows there's a reason behind that. So when we do hard things that we don't like doing, we actually build part of our brain. It's called the mid-anterior cingulate cortex. And
Why do
that
all
has
these
been
brain
shown.
sections just have just the biggest, longest names?
Yeah.
How do you remember them all?
I don't. The more I learn, the more I realize I don't know much. And it's really interesting. This part of the brain it's been shown that stronger that is, the more likely you are to be resilient. And unfortunately, the modern world is doing a load of different things to really reduce its strength and its density. We spoke in one of the previous sessions about how this media multitasking is really impacting our brains and reducing the structure in it or reducing the density in it. And in fact, lots of that is actually reducing this part of the brain that is really important for resilience. So we're doing a lot of activities weakening this part of the brain, then we're not doing the things that are strengthening this part of the brain, and we wonder why resilience is sort of going down the toilet.
Yeah, it's interesting that in previous episodes we've been talking about how stress is at an all-time high, but resilience is at an all-time low. Like we're all feeling these insane amounts of stress, and the connectedness. Yeah, it's like connectedness is also at an all-time high as well, but we're the least connected we've ever been in the real world. It's like there's so many dichotomies when it comes to this discussion. It's so interesting.
It really is. Like it's such a fascinating time around, being, like you said, being more disconnected but more connected. It makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
And yet there's some huge things that society needs to face, I think, in terms of not only resilience, but how we're managing stress as well.
Yeah.
So interested and eager to jump into a few different ways that we can sort of improve our resilience.
Yes, let's get into that. How can we build our resilience?
So it's funny that you reflected upon your time in small business and you said, I think I'm a lot more resilient. Now, I'm interested, do you actually keep a journal of what you've been doing and how you're completing things and the challenges that you face?
So technically no, but for a while I was writing a weekly newsletter, and that kind of was a bit of my journal. And I wrote a couple of articles about the times that I've actually wanted to quit my business, where I felt like I had hit rock bottom and I was done, and the lessons that those periods taught me, because it was always not that I actually wanted to quit the business, is that there was a gap in my knowledge or a gap between me and an objective that I wanted to achieve. So writing those articles kind of did act as a bit of a journal for me to reflect and to think of, oh, that time I actually had a meltdown, that same thing happened like last week and I was actually fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we think about that, if you reflect back on the times where you've actually overcome challenges, that's creating self-efficacy. And the more we do that, we build up that resilience muscle, because we know, hey, I've actually done something that's similar to this. I can apply that to the next challenge and I'll be able to overcome it. So you get that confidence, you get that grit that you can keep going through. So I think self-efficacy journaling is something that is massively underutilized and something that's super powerful for our children as well. We have pushed very hard for our daughter to journal. So she journals every night. And part of that is writing down, what's a challenge that you overcome, so that she starts thinking about, I can overcome these things. She builds that self-confidence. So the next time she does face a challenge, she knows that she can keep moving forward. We had a very proud parenting moment. Obviously, my wife and I both do a lot of public speaking, and our daughter did a big presentation in front of the entire school and loads of parents as well. It was a huge audience.
Wow.
And we asked her, we said, well, how did you get chosen to come up and do a speech in front of the whole school? Like, this is pretty big, right? You've never done this before. And she was like, well, you told me that if I spoke in front of 5 people, it was like speaking in front of 100 people. So I thought, why not just do 500 people? And
oh my God.
wonderful. She did a cracking job. Super proud of her.
What a legend.
But she had built this self-efficacy because she'd faced her fears before. She knew she could do it in front of a small group. Why not do it in front of a bigger group and just keep trying?
Yeah, I love that. That's actually a similar thing that I did for public speaking, because I have always hated public speaking. I hated it. I'd like get the shakes beforehand and I couldn't breathe and I'd just have to like white knuckle through it. And owning a business and working in marketing and building a personal brand, that all involves public speaking. Like, you just cannot avoid it. So I knew it was something I had to master. And a couple of years ago, I got invited by UQ to run a marketing workshop for students. And I literally spent like 2 months preparing for this workshop because I was absolutely petrified. But logically, I knew I have been in the workforce for many years. Like, I am the expert in this area. They want to learn from me. There hypothetically shouldn't be anything that I can't answer. Like, it's a really easy stepping stone for me to practice public speaking. And if it all goes to shit and I, make a huge mistake and I can't, it's just to uni students. Like, they probably don't even care. They're not going to remember me. So I like set myself up in that situation to kind of keep the stakes low and just to tell myself that I could do it.
Yep.
And I was so petrified. Looking back is just hilarious, but I did the workshop. It was so fine. And now I run workshops all the time. And I don't say I enjoy public speaking, but it's definitely not as stressful and nerve-wracking as it was. But yes, exactly as your daughter did, you do it once, you tick it off the list, you go, I can do that. I can do hard things. Let's move on to the next thing. That feels hard, but I've done it before. Why can't I do it again?
Absolutely. Building that self-efficacy is such an important tool. Something that we're probably robbing our kids of a little bit at the moment, because we run around doing everything for them and making sure that they don't have any challenges. And if they've got any problems, we solve them straight away. As a parent, I find it really challenging because, I want to pump up my own self-esteem by solving all the problems and making me feel really good. But the only thing that's doing is stealing from my daughter, building her self-esteem. So yeah, taking a step back and just allowing that process to happen and letting people do hard things. Doing hard things that they don't want to do strengthens that part of the brain that helps people become more resilient.
Yeah, I think I'm a bit of a people pleaser as well. So coming into business ownership and management for the first time as well, I wanted to make my team's job as easy as possible for them. I was doing the same thing with, almost doing their job for them or making it as easy as possible for them to do their job, which ended up being a detriment to myself and them as well, because they had no room to experiment or grow or have any autonomy in their work. And it took me a little while to realize that I was trying to be a good manager, but by doing that, I was actually being a bad manager or not as good of a manager as I should have been. And by stepping back and actually letting my team do the job that I hired them to do, like, who would have thought that they enjoyed the job more, and they actually surprised me a lot of the time with the ideas that they put forward. And so if you're a recovering people pleaser or perhaps a micromanager like me, you can do it as well, I promise.
Absolutely. It's just practice, but it's great that you picked it up on your journey. Yeah,
it's been massively, massively helpful.
If you're after personal financial advice, don't get it from a podcast. But if you want guidance tailored to your situation, head to moneypodcast.com.au and click Get Help. We'll connect you with one of our trusted professionals, financial advisors and mortgage brokers, who work with people right across Australia. No matter where you are, they can help. Now, before we get back to the show, a quick reminder to protect your financial life. That means having income protection sorted. It means having death cover if there's any debt or dependents relying on you. It means getting your personal insurance in order. Most people insure their car, they insure their house, but what about themselves? Sky Wealth, who support this podcast, are specialist financial advisors who can help you get the right cover in place. Their advice is often more comprehensive and better value than going direct through your super. Book a complimentary 15-minute chat at sky.com.au. That's skye.com.au. And they'll point you in the right direction.
You have a note here about HRV. What is that? What is HRV?
Yeah, so HRV is, and it depends, I guess, what circles you're walking in, but it's something that a lot of people are measuring now that they have all these fancy devices like Whoop or Oura Rings, and maybe even the Apple Watch does it as well, and they measure heart rate variability. And lots of people go, I've got this heart rate variability, I don't know what it means, or maybe they do if they're really into metrics and performance measurements. But HRV, or heart rate variability, is actually something that's wonderful to track because it's a bit of a measure or it is a measure for resilience. Because when your heart rate variability is at a good measurement, that is actually a good or great indicator that you are going to be resilient because your body is primed to perform at its best. And so athletes use it all the time. They say, okay, my heart rate variability, it's within this band. It's a great range today. I'm going to go out and push to my max because I'm ready to go. Whereas when it's at a bad reading, they might say, today's actually going to be more of a recovery day. And likewise, in the future, down the track, when we're using all of these devices to get a lot more intricate knowledge of how we are performing, both mentally and physically, HRV will probably be something that we look at all the time and say, okay, is today the day I'm going to really crack in and do that really important work? Or maybe I'm going to take a step back and just take the foot off the pedal today. So HRV. And what is HRV? So HRV is literally just how efficiently your body can move from being in a sympathetic state, so stressed, into a parasympathetic state, so relaxed. And that HRV measure measures how efficiently your body can move between those two, which is super important.
How is it, like a number or a scale?
Exactly. Yeah, it's just a number that you get. And again, it's all very personalized. So you can't look at your HRV versus someone else and go, oh, how come my number's so much worse? You would want to track your number for a significant period of time and say, okay, this is good for me. And then how do I improve that? And it's funny, lots of these things that we've studied in mental health and neuroscience, it always comes back to the same thing. So how do we improve our resilience by having a really good HRV measurement? Well, it comes back to the basics. Are you sleeping well? Are you eating well? Are you eating a nutritious diet? You're not just eating ultra-processed foods. Are you sleeping well? Are you making sure that you're managing your stress? Do you have some form of mindfulness or ability to down-regulate in your life? Are you staying connected with people? Because connection is such an important metric for our health and our happiness, but also for our well-being as well. All the longevity studies show that connection, friends, it's so important for us being happy and healthy. And again, it contributes to our HRV as well. So all of those things are going to help build our resilience.
Yeah. So don't go on a bender, sleep in, wake up hungover, have Macca's brekkie, and then check your HRV and be like, why can't I take on the day today? Why is my HRV crap?
Absolutely. And we all know that, right? We know how our body feels after a night at the amusement park when we've had too much to drink. We don't respond the next day. We can't perform well. We can't think well. Our body's all over the place. So your resilience is going to be low. So it's about making sure that we're taking our care of ourselves in the right way to really be at our resilient best.
Yeah. I'm having a look at our notes, and you've got here Norwegian 4x4. What is that? That has piqued my interest.
Oh, so that's something actually I recently heard, been doing it for a while, but I recently heard, I think it was on the Diary of a CEO, one of the guests on there was speaking about the Norwegian 4x4. So it's starting to get a little bit of traction, I think, in mainstream, which is fantastic. But it's a great way to really improve your health and your resilience. It's an exercise routine where basically you would go out and you would do really, really hard exercise. So maybe you get on the treadmill or an exercise bike and you go really, really hard for 4 minutes, and then you'd take 4 minutes to down-regulate, to slow down, to really get your breath back, and then you go super hard for another 4 minutes, and you just repeat that 4x4.
Yeah.
And that is a great way to improve your cardiovascular health. It's also a great way to improve your neural adaptation. There's a whole raft of benefits that is going to come from doing this specific exercise. And the other thing is it's hard. It's going to hurt.
When you're saying 4 minutes, I was thinking, I don't think I've ever like run for 4 minutes straight, or I don't know, like do burpees or something. Like that's a really long time.
It's a long time. It's going to be hard. It's going to be pretty miserable. You're not going to be able to go at 100%, far from, because you'll completely blow out. But when you do that, you're really going to strengthen that mid-anterior cingulate cortex, and it's going to help you become more resilient as well.
Yeah, and it's probably that thing of just getting the reps in, and once you do it, you can, again, like you've done that hard thing. It is possible, and maybe it's you. Obviously, not going to be able to do it for 4 minutes at the first time, unless you're really fit, unlike me. But maybe it's 1 minute, and then the next time it's 1.5 minutes or whatever, and you build up on that to reach that 4 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Self-efficacy. It's all about, showing yourself that you can do it.
Yeah, 100%. So I think those, the HRV thing, the Norwegian 4x4, those are things that are really easy for you to get started with to check your resilience and start building on it. But the reflection piece, I think, is really important. And I'm glad that you pointed that out, because that's something, even with my newsletter, I hadn't even really considered that as reflection or as journaling. But you've motivated me to actually pick up my newsletter again, because I've put it on the back burner for a bit. But that did really help me to build that resilience and reflect on the difficult periods as well as the really great periods in my business to I guess just reflect and learn from those lessons and really think like, oh, I did that. I actually did that, because it's so easy to just tick a box and move on to the next thing. Hey.
Oh, especially in small business, right? You're so busy, you're just constantly on the go. What's next? What's next? Taking a moment is super important to make sure that you are building that self-efficacy. And the other thing I would say around resilience, which I'm constantly talking to my daughter about, is just do hard things, right? Do challenging things. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations. When you do that, it is going to help you grow.
Yeah. I have a wildcard question. Is there a time that you can think of within your business that you realized that you had built resilience in a certain area of your business?
Oh, that's a great question. I have to reflect on that. I think it was probably pretty early on. How long were we going? We were probably going for 4 years, and COVID hit. And that was a super hard time for small business, right?
Nothing like a pandemic to build resilience, hey?
all of a sudden, it's like, straight away, it's like, are we even going to be able to get any cash in the door? Like, what are we going to do? And I was really proud of how we pivoted really quickly. I was actually in America at the time that I got stuck in America when it kicked off. So I was right at the start of it.
Wow.
And it was challenging to get back. But because of that, I think we got a little bit of a head start, because America was a little bit ahead in how many cases they had. And I remember looking out of my hotel window across this, I think it was like an 8-lane freeway, and there wasn't one single car on it, thinking, oh my gosh, this is like something from a movie. Ringing my wife, who's my business partner, and saying, how are we going to change here? And I think during that, we not only built real resilience, but we worked out that, hey, we can probably thrive during this period as well if we get on the front foot. And that's one of the benefits of being a small business. You can move quickly, you can be agile. And so that was probably something that was really helpful for our resilience.
Yeah. And had you built your business mostly online and remote already, or was that something you had to build during COVID?
A little bit of both. We were lucky because we were we live a couple of hours out of Sydney, so we were used to using that functionality. There were still challenges, as we tried to make our presentations more interactive by integrating different polling software and, software where we could get responses from people. So there was definitely some challenges that came with it, but we were probably, again, a lot more agile than other bigger businesses, and probably had a head start because we were using some of that, a lot before.
Yeah. I felt the same way during COVID. I wasn't a business owner during COVID, but where I worked, funnily enough, they were just implementing like work from home and laptops, and it was almost like they knew COVID was coming. Maybe they had like maybe they had a snitch or something. But yeah, I remember thinking, like, I had got my laptop. It was like a month or two before COVID had hit. And I thought, God, thank God, I could very much be out of the job if they hadn't put these in place. And I can't imagine how a lot of businesses would have bounced back, or being able to pivot that quickly, like make a change like that, like buying a lot of equipment and technology and implementing new processes and uploading things to the cloud. Like that's a massive shift to do in a very short amount of time.
Yeah. From that perspective, we were very fortunate as well, because we were already remote. So very, very lucky in that.
Yeah, cool. Well, those are all the questions I had. I think that was a really great episode to discuss resilience, to learn how to build resilience. And I really want to reiterate that reflection piece, because I think a lot of us listening probably are more resilient than we think. And actually, that was something you told me right before we started recording, because I was saying, I'm still not the most resilient. I've got room for improvement. And you told me that I'm probably hard on myself. So I'm going to tell the listeners that you're probably being hard on yourself as well. So yeah, please do reflect on the challenges that you've overcome in your business, and take note of those, because that shows that you can do hard things, and that's probably step one to building resilience.
Fantastic. It's been lovely talking to you.
Thank you for jumping on to these 3 mini episodes. I think the listeners are going to find such value with all 3. Where can they find you and what you do at EQ Minds?
Yeah, absolutely. So if they jump on Instagram, it's at EQ Minds, or you can look me up on LinkedIn, Jay Pottenger, or alternatively our website as well at eqminds.com.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, and looking forward to keeping up with everything that you're up to.
Been a pleasure. Take care.
Any advice is general financial advice only, which does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Because of that, you should consider if the advice is appropriate to you and your needs before acting on the information. If you do choose to buy a financial product, read the Product Disclosure Statement, PDS, and Target Market Determination, TMD, and obtain appropriate financial advice tailored to your needs. Simo Interactive Pty Ltd, the publisher of this podcast, and Glenn James are authorised representatives of Money Sherpa Pty Ltd, which holds financial services license 451289. Opinions or comments from any guests on the podcast are theirs and not those of the host or the publisher or their respective license holders.